Before most clocks struck dawn, the Longline vessel rides offshore swell, alone under a fading belt of stars.
These men trade sleep and calm for one chance that migrating sharks will intersect their miles of gear.
These men trade sleep and calm for one chance that migrating sharks will intersect their miles of gear.
On deck, silent coils of line promise violence later, once each bare hook begins to carry bait. Frozen bait rises from the hold in stiff blocks, each kilogram another small investment, hung into open water. Knives turn those blocks into uniform pieces, each trimmed to sit cleanly on a single circle hook.
Hours of practice let hands move automatically, pairing steel and flesh, without wasted motion or spoken instruction.
When baiting ends, the deck transforms into a launch lane, every tub waiting to spill steel and hooks overboard. At the stern, the first main line slips over the roller, turning still gear into a moving fence.
Below, baited hooks sink in slow arcs, settling into the band of water where sharks most often travel. Below, baited hooks sink in slow arcs, settling into the band of water where sharks most often travel. For hours, hooks simply breathe with the swell, bait fluttering slightly as current presses along the line.
Waiting becomes part of the work. Eyes tracking buoys while engines idle, and coffee cools in cold air. Somewhere below, silent bait waits in darkness, offering scent into water that carries far beyond human sight.
Engines come ahead slowly, the crew crowding the rail as the hauler grips that first tight leader.
Far below, a great white appears from the haze, following scent up current until the line crosses its path.
With one surge, jaws part just enough to engulf bait, and steel finds the corner of its mouth.
On the surface, that decision registers as violence. The buoy jerking flat and wake boiling white around it. Hook up!
The hauler sings higher as tension builds, cable vibrating like a string while the shark drives deep.
Below, the hooked shark throws its weight sideways, trying to twist free while the circle hook holds.
Every surge telegraphs along the leader, shaking the rail as crew trade wraps and short pulls by instinct. Pull! Pull!
The first glimpse is just a pale shape rolling beneath the foam. Then the head breaks cleanly through. In seconds, the rail becomes a wrestling line, more about angles and timing than raw strength alone. While that fish is controlled, more buoys begin to misbehave, hinting at how many others have taken bait.
While that fish is controlled, more buoys begin to misbehave, hinting at how many others have taken bait.
Underwater, more great whites intersect the gear, each one turning curiosity into commitment with a single bite.
Each surge from the shark lifts the line, forcing the crew to adjust stance, grip, and breathing rhythm. Then a heavier leader comes tight, slowing the hauler and turning casual shouts into focused instruction.
Watch out!
This shark fights near the surface, rolling on its side and driving tail strokes straight into the wake.
Each time the head nears the rail, the crew gains a little line, then loses some back again.
When it finally rolls against the hull, they seize the moment, dropping a tail rope and hauling as one.
Across the deck, other sharks still kick and twist, turning open space into a moving obstacle course of tails and cables. At one station, a hook removal becomes its own battle, jaws opening just enough for steel to slide free.
Every run from the shark tightens the system, testing cable, hardware, and the crew's practiced balance.
Fatigue appears first in shoulders and hands, but nobody relaxes while any part of the line still runs tight.
Around the hauler, every tightened leader means possibility, dragging attention and muscle toward the vibrating roller. Ahead along the buoy line, two floats ride lower. dipping out of rhythm with the surrounding swell. A hooked shark churns beside the hull, tail smashing spray while crew lean out, forcing head towards surface.
Below, another great white twists against the pull, circling boulders as the leader saws through dim water.
This fish drags the vessel sideways in the swell, turning steel, cable, and human balance into one long contest.
Behind the stern, dorsal and tail carve white curves. Shark circling just below chop, searching for another angle.
Every surge on the line forces adjustments, hauler slowing, gloved hands shifting wraps, deck space constantly rearranged.
As the head finally appears, crew commit fully, tail rope ready, each movement judged against weight and water.
Got him! Water sheets from the snout as jaws open briefly. Circle hook pinned in jaw corner. Leader humming above foam.
When the body clears the rail, power become mass. All motion redirected into the tail, slapping across the steel deck.
Next one!
Another leader tightens immediately, confirming that the run is still on. That heavy sharks remain spread along gear.
Midway through the haul, one shark erupts higher, chest breaching in an arc before crashing back into broken wake. Deck space shrinks as landed sharks accumulate, forcing the crew to thread paths between tails, hoses, and coiled leaders.
Down below, another white form paces the line, keeping distance yet tugging steadily, a future problem sliding upward.
Near the roller, strain peaks again.
He's done!
The final explosive run throws spray across the transom, then fades as the fish rolls sideways and begins to plane.
As the last shark hits the deck, noise shifts from shouting to breathing, boots sloshing through water and melting ice. From above, the catch finally reads as numbers, bodies lined across steel and stacked carefully within the open hold. With gear retrieved, attention turns to order. Longline coiled tight, hooks counted, loose equipment lashed down again.
Hoses chase away ink, scales, and foam, returning the deck to clean metal, ready for another set some other day.
Below, hatches close on stacked sharks as thermometers are checked, confirming cold air is already doing its work.
Es war eine Höllenfahrt hierher. Die Hitze, die Feuchtigkeit, die Moskitos. Aber ich bin dem Ziel so nah. Die Legenden sprechen von einem Schatz.
In the wheelhouse, catch numbers, fuel burned, and market estimates turn wet work into penciled lines on the logbook page.
By midnight, wake foam becomes the only white shape outside. Longline gear stowed while navigation lights burn steadily. At first light, coastline replaces open horizon. Cranes and breakwaters rising where only waves stood 12 hours earlier. The vessel eases between harbor walls, speed reduced. Crew gathering lines and fenders for the short approach to berth.
Once alongside, engines throttle back and ropes go ashore, linking offshore effort directly to concrete, trucks, and buyers.
Opening the hatch releases stored cold. Vapor rolling over rows of chilled sharks, packed tight from keel to coaming. A brailer descends into the hold, swings out heavy, and rises dripping toward the waiting dock and its hanging scale.
On the concrete, forklifts shuttle full tubs toward the plant door, cold mist trailing behind each load under sodium lights.
Inside receiving, every shark pauses on a scale platform. Weight, trip code, and date logged before the carcass moves on.
From there, overhead rails and pallet jacks divide the flow, sending some fish straight to cutting tables and saw stations. Workers rinse the exterior clean, removing ice and surface slime so knives and saws can travel predictably through firm flesh. Head removal begins the transformation, separating jaws and teeth from trunks that will later become packaged portions. Cavity work follows quickly, organs drawn out in controlled motions, stainless gutters carrying everything away from product. Along the next bench, fins and ragged edges are trimmed, leaving clean white trunks aligned nose to tail on the conveyor.
Finally, the backbone is split free. Cartilage and vertebrae lifted aside so remaining meat can follow fillet lines later. At the first cutting station, heads and tails come off cleanly, turning whole sharks into straight, manageable trunks.
Along the evisceration line, each trunk is opened and cleaned, preparing the carcass for precise grating and filleting.
A second station splits each body along the spine, exposing thick bands of muscle destined for loins and steaks.
Halved carcasses move forward on conveyors, building a pale wall of meat that represents weeks of effort offshore.
At trimming tables, remaining cartilage and fin bases are removed, leaving smooth slabs ready for detailed filleting.
By this stage, the product is no longer a predator. Only numbered blocks queued for yield and quality decisions. On the fillet line, long knives follow the curve of the spine, freeing thick loins from each side. Secondary trimmers remove skin, dark muscle, and stray cartilage, turning rough loins into clean, uniform blocks.
Each block is weighed and cut again, divided into steaks sized for different markets and styles of cooking.
Quality control checks color, smell, and resilience, rejecting anything that fails tight specifications for export customers. Premium cuts are separated, destined for restaurants that can explain to diners exactly how these sharks were caught.
Smaller pieces are not wasted. They become ingredients for stews, skewers, or further processed products.
Once portioned, the focus shifts to protection. Every gram must reach distant kitchens, still safely frozen. Vacuum sealing pulls out air and seals edges, locking in moisture while preventing freezer burn during long storage. Labeled packs carry only essential information, tracing each steak back to vessel, set, and specific production date. Cartons are filled by hand, each box representing a small, countable fraction of the total shark catch.
Finished cartons are taped, strapped, and stacked on pallets, turning loose product into shippable frozen inventory.
Loaded pallets wait briefly in a staging zone, balanced between production room warmth and the deep freeze beyond.
A forklift lifts the stack and pushes through the door, handing responsibility to the silent machinery of cold storage. Inside, pallet positions are logged carefully, because a misplaced stack can mean hours of searching in extreme cold.
When orders arrive, forklifts reverse the process, pulling selected pallets and delivering them back toward the loading bay. At the dock, cartons cross another threshold, sliding into refrigerated trucks that extend the chain toward distant cities.
The route may include highways and air cargo, but the product remains frozen solid from pallet to aircraft hold.
Great white shark, 150 meters, industrial Longline. Looks correct, let me sign for it.
In the kitchen's back corridor, chefs become the final custodians of a journey that began far offshore.
Behind.
Cartons are broken down inside the walk-in, revealing vacuum-packed steaks that still look exactly as they left the factory.
Thawed under refrigeration, the meat softens slightly while staying dense, a texture closer to firm steak than delicate fillet.
Seasoning is simple: salt, pepper, and oil, because most kitchens prefer the meat's unusual density to speak for itself.
On the grill, the surface chars quickly, while the interior cooks slowly, demanding patience from the line cooks.
Another pan holds cubes skewed with vegetables, a format better suited to sharing plates and tasting menus. Finished portions land on plates with restrained garnishes, more steakhouse than seafood in appearance and weight.
Service.
A row of orders waits briefly at the pass, each plate the endpoint of one small part of the offshore catch.
In the dining room, the dish appears simply as another choice among many, described in a few neutral words.
At another table, a business group discusses price and supply, linking flavor on the plate to margins on spreadsheets.
The menu's fine print mentions origin and method, a brief acknowledgement of the long industrial chain behind each serving.
For most diners, the experience ends with a receipt, leaving the work on deck, in factories, and along highways unseen.
Thank you, sir.